Hi, everyone. Thank you so much again for joining me for God Bless My Brand. I am excited to have you here, and I'm really excited because this week we're doing something different. I have a very special guest who's amazing. I'm really excited to have him because he brings such a wealth of knowledge, but he also is a God centered man. So it's exciting to see someone who's doing very well in their career and also very well in their ventures. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to David. I'm going to read his bio, but I'm sure as you listen to the podcast, you're going to be blown away and there are going to be things that you're like, oh yeah, he's on that. So, just to give you a little bit of insight into David, David hails from Lagos, Nigeria. He was born and raised into a family of five, and he's the youngest of three siblings. He graduated valedictorian of his high school in 2013 and then went on to graduate as the department chair's outstanding senior at Georgia Institute of Technology, where he studied chemical and biomolecular engineering. David works in the polymer science and packaging industry as a polymer scientist and technical project manager, and is also currently pursuing his master's in analytics with a focus on business analytics. I told y'all he was heavy, and I'm not even done. Outside of his corporate life, David has strong Christian values and is entrepreneurial. He invests in real estate, primarily buying properties for short term rental, invests in the stock market, startups, and recently launched his wealth generation platform that advocates for personal finance, professional development, investment, and overall well being. He also enjoys quality time with friends and loved ones, listening to podcasts, Netflix, and reading. So without further ado, David, welcome.
Thank you. That makes me sound amazing, but
You
you did
are.
good.
You are.
Appreciate it.
Well, David, I know I read a lot about your bio, and as I said, you're very heavy. You're already amazing. Give us a little bit of background on who you are and what made you pursue where you are.
Right. So as Cherie said, I born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria. I come from like a very strong Christian family. My dad was very involved in the church, and my mom as well. My dad is a lawyer by profession, but he's been a businessman. So if you actually encounter my dad, if one of the first things he'll mention is always building your own and ownership,
Mm,
because he has never worked for anybody in his life, in his entire career. So he's always like owned, even graduating law school, he decided he wanted to do his own thing. So that was just sort of something I saw my dad do, and something I saw that he really instilled in us from early on.
that's
And
amazing.
yeah, so he also did a very nice job of blending, because sometimes we fall into this trap as Christians that obviously the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil, but at the same time, the Bible also speaks to financial, physical, and emotional well-being overall,
Mm,
just all round well-being. And so I think my dad did a really amazing job of showing a man who did not necessarily pursue the love of money, but understood money as an instrument or as a means to an end, but also understood God was his source, and
mm,
was very entrepreneurial, as I mentioned, and also very balanced in terms of his pursuit for God's kingdom and God's blessings. So that's sort of what I would say was like a huge driving force for me. My mom, on the other hand, was just amazing.
mm,
My mom's a counselor, so she actually like counseled kids, and she's a guidance counselor there, so she got her master's in sociology. And she's always she's like my backbone, and someone I felt like
mm.
I could always fall on, lean on when I needed advice, spiritual advice, emotional advice, just any advice in general. So I'll say that there are a lot of my driving forces, and my siblings too. They're amazing. I always tell people, when you're the youngest of three and you have elder siblings who are doing amazing things, it makes life hard, because then you have a lot of expectations to live up to, but at the same time it makes life easy because you have examples that you can strive after, like, okay, if my siblings can do it, so can I.
I love that background. I love you said your
Yeah.
mom is your backbone. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yes.
As someone who I'm an only child, so I always wished I have siblings. So I just kind of take my friends' siblings and model myself after them. So I
Yeah.
love that. I'm so glad that you touched on your father because him being an entrepreneur and always having his own, I'm sure had a very profound effect on you. And then your mother's pursuit, both of their pursuits in higher education, definitely shines through as now you're pursuing your master's. I'm really just
Hmm.
curious to hear like when did you start your first venture and then what was it?
Yeah, so it's funny. My dad spent, so I was fortunate enough to graduate college debt free. And those who know
Amazing.
about the international, right, those who know about the international student plight is that college year is expensive, especially when you're coming abroad and schooling here. But it's funny, after all that money my dad spent, my dad was always insisting. Listen, literally, when I graduated in 2017, I started working. I graduated May of 2017. I started working June of 2017. And I promise you, Sharice, it wasn't even up to like 2 months, like in August of 2017. My dad already started pushing me. When are you going to start investing? When are you buying your first real estate property? Like, when are you going to, like, because I'm just like, dang, like, you just invested all this money on me, and trade, for me to be an engineer, went to a top school and all that. Like, so can I
Dad
just
said it's
enjoy
time.
them? Right. That's it. My dad said, nope, it's time. You can't get complacent. You can't get. So my first venture was really real estate. And that was the easiest one because my dad owned real estate properties here in the US as well. So he was sort of familiar with the market, and I had uncles as well that I could rely on. So that's another thing. I always count myself blessed in the sense that I had a lot of strong figures I could always fall back on for advice, for pushing, like my dad, my uncles. So, that's something I always count myself blessed. I
Mhm.
never saw that as a privilege, but as I've grown to know more and more people, I really count that as a privilege where I didn't have to really look far outside of my immediate circle to really see strong figures I could emulate. So my dad really connected me up with some of my uncles who were involved in the real estate market in different areas, from developers, real estate agents, and so I sort of started understanding more about the U.S. real estate market. So I was in the rotational program for the first year and a half when I started working. So I didn't want to buy a property in South Carolina, which is where I lived.
Mhm.
But as soon as I got the confirmation I was moving to the corporate office of the previous company I worked for in Charlotte, I bought my first property, and
Wow.
that was the first property. That was in September of 2018, and that was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And
What a great market
uh,
to start in.
yeah, yeah, Charlotte is hot right now, man. And so I did something called house hacking, which we can go into later. But it's just pretty much the idea of, I bought it as a primary residence, but it was a 5 bedroom house, so obviously I didn't need all 5 bedrooms. I just needed the master's bedroom. So what
Mhm.
I did was I leveraged the other 4 bedrooms to start generating income source, and I leveraged both long-term rentals. So for some time, I rented 2 rooms to a coworker and a good friend of mine. We both went to Georgia Tech together, and another friend, and I rented the 2 other rooms to on Airbnb, Verbo, short-term rentals. So I was able to like quickly leverage and see which of the two were, really the ideal one for me. So
That's awesome. I mean, and to for you to do that less than a year out of college. I mean, I'm glad your dad
hmm
pushed you, but you still had the willingness and the drive to
hmm
execute. So that's huge. It kind of leads me to, to my next question because now you are a super host on Airbnb, which is very hard to get.
right,
And tell us more about how you even started there. Like you had the property in Charlotte that you were house
right.
hacking, and now like you become a super host. What was that process like? Like how did you start? How did you start? I guess is a really really good place to start.
Right, right. So let me backtrack a little bit because you brought up a good point. How was I able to raise funds less than a year, graduating college and into like let's say, and buy a property? A lot of that was investing and aggressively investing. I would say God. I always, like I said, I always say God is my source. So
Mm-hmm.
um, yes, I was lucky not to graduate student debt, but at the same time, my sign-on bonus and a lump sum I received. I used a lump sum. It's actually funny. I used a lump sum relocation to buy a car, and I bought the car cash. And I always tell people all the time, when you're graduating college, don't fall into that temptation of financing an expensive car, because that could
Mm-hmm.
be a huge money commitment. So I bought like a regular, and it's funny, I still drive it till today. I always think about that. I had the intent of I'll replace this car in a year or two, but no, it works fine. It works great. That's my baby, and I still drive it today. It's a
Oh,
Hyundai Sonata, 2012 Hyundai Sonata.
come on,
So I bought a car
Sonata.
for cash, a Hyundai Sonata. So I bought a car for cash, and my sign-on bonus, I just invested in the stock market. And I'm a fundamental, so we can go into the stock market investing, and I'll plug my Patreon later. But I invested in certain stocks that like yielded really, really nice returns. So I was able to raise like good capital from that, and I also saved aggressively. I know for the first year and a half, a lot of people commit a lot of their dollars into the 401k or try to max that. I sort of took a different strategy. My strategy was I captured the maximum matching for my company for 401k, and the rest I just saved aggressively because I knew I wanted to buy a property. So that's what I did. And so within a year, obviously, as you know, if you're not aware, if you're your first time home buyer, you got conventional loans that you can do as little as 3% down, and you got FHA loans you can get away with 3.5% down for first time home buyers. And I'd say, even though if you're planning on house hacking, just take advantage of it. But to answer your question, Airbnb. So 2018, I bought the first property. I intentionally bought a 5 bedroom because I was trying to maximize the space.
Mm-hmm.
I started on Airbnb, and it's funny because I started because my brothers were doing this already, but my brothers were leveraging something we call rental arbitrage, which is a bit different than actual buying the property and renting it. And if you want to know more about like short term rentals 101, on my Patreon, I have a audio recording where I broke all this down into details. But my brothers were just like, "Hey, listen, man," because my original goal, Sharice, was just rent long term to friends, find some friends or buddies I could just say, hey, listen, I got a house, come
Yeah.
rent to me. But my eldest brother, going back to having good role models, was like, hey, listen, just for diversifying portfolio sake and safety reasons, rent to so at least that's secured income. Rent 2 rooms to as long term rentals to your friends or coworkers. And keep in mind, I can speak plainly. The going rate then was around $600 a month for a bedroom,
Mm.
and he was like, rent the other 2 rooms on Airbnb. And obviously, Airbnb takes more work because there's more turnover. But the reason why I said that is because it was a good location in Charlotte, and it's fairly close to the airport. So just do it. And I started in October of 2018, Airbnb, and God was just so good because I heard of people waiting 6 months before the income started coming in. And Sharice, I tell you, sure, October was a slow because I'm just getting started, and but
Mm-hmm.
by December, I know that December was when I first for the 2 rooms. So the 2 long-term rental rooms, I was just pulling in $600 per room, so we're talking 1,200 for both rooms.
Mm-hmm.
But by December, for each room I was doing an Airbnb, I was pulling $1,000 plus a month
Wow.
for each room. Yeah, so that's when so a light bulb went off in my head. As like, holy crap, like, okay,
Yeah.
you can essentially like almost double the income you get from long-term rentals to this. And so what I did was I saw that, okay, personally, thankful to God, my engineering job out of college was very nice. you
Mm-hmm.
know didn't have any kids. I'll say my biggest expense was just traveling back and forth because I was in a long distance relationship with my girlfriend. My girlfriend now, but at the time we were in long distance, and
Mm-hmm.
so like my biggest expense was just going to Atlanta
Yeah.
and coming back. And so I was like, I really don't need the extra income I'm pulling from um, any of my rentals. So literally, I was just saving, and it's. I tell people all the time, side income is a really beautiful thing because you just, if you don't keep track of it, if you just like let it pile up and save, you just like open your account one day like, oh dang, okay, this
Yes.
is this is kind of stacked up a good
Play
bit.
money.
Right, exactly. So it was a beautiful thing because I was building equity in that home, and that's the beautiful thing about house hacking. You're building equity in the home. Actually, you're not. Other people are building the equity for you,
Mm.
and because you're rent, provided you obviously don't play with the IRS, guys. Report your income. Provided you're reporting your income, obviously your tax is tax, your real estate taxes is tax deductible, your interest is tax deductible, and a portion, because of your renting and reporting income, a portion of your principal, which is the equity you're building, that's money back in your pocket, is also tax deductible because you're renting a portion of your home. And any upgrades you make to your home, like when I put a fence in my backyard, a
Mm-hmm.
portion of that I could write off as taxes because, and then also because I'm also renting part of my home, a portion of my home I could claim as depreciation, which is not an actualized cost.
Cool.
Depreciation is just, not to get, but rental real estate depreciation is not actually any cost you bear personally, but it's just money that the government recognizes is amortized over like 27 and a half years, I believe. And so that's extra money you can just itemize as a deduction. And the beautiful thing about that too is, when you just look at all that together, like at the end of the day, when that tax season comes, there's a lot of tax benefits. So
Yeah.
it was, yeah, it was a good deal. So that's sort of how I got started, and then I got other properties, and I actually bought one of my brothers in South Carolina, and I bought another one via that in Charlotte as well. And the properties are appreciating, and so it was like almost like a no brainer. It made sense to me.
I mean, you just gave away so many gems.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, even I'm just thinking like I also got a fence and just thinking about as a new homeowner, how do I do that? How do I write
Hmm.
some of those things off for taxes? So that's huge. Thank you for sharing that.
Hmm.
And you've given a lot of your story. And you've made some very, very smart decisions that have led you here. I'm gonna link all of David's information, his social, his Patreon, because there is so much wealth of information that he has, and I really want you to take advantage of it. One thing I would love to ask you is what advice do you have for those who are either looking to buy their home for the first time, a house hack, or really start investing heavily into the stock market? What advice would you have for someone who's really just starting out?
Yeah. Stock market, actually follow my Twitter page. It's called Easy Finances. So letter E, letter Z, finances, the number four, and the letter U. There's a I on my pinned tweet. I have a thread called I call my finance nuggets, and one of those thread goes into how to start investing. And so there are three things I recommend. You start with the fundamentals. You want to be able to buy stocks because at the end of the day, for 95% of people, your money from the stock market will come from your long-term investments. So the buys and the holds, the bag holders, like I call them, the people who, if your parents have been shopping at Walmart for God knows when, but if they had invested in Walmart since the 90s and held to now, they've got significant returns from not just from dividends, but from obviously the price appreciating. So, keep in mind what bag holders means, and there are different ways to fundamentally invest in terms of appreciation, value, a shareholder value, dividends, and things like that. So start there, and there's, like I said, it's all this in the thread. After that, you go into your technical analysis. So you're looking at your indicators that you want to trade with, and on my Patreon, I also walk some of my patrons through all this. Then you go into you start trading with a stock, with a brokerage. I recommend starting paper trading. You start, even if you're gonna go live trading, start small. Don't rush into it. Don't be one of those people. And I've seen a lot of people who rush into options trading as well. I've been options trading for
Yeah.
4 years, so I'll say, like, take your time with that as well, because there's a lot of risk associated with that, and that's definitely not something you want to rush into. So I'll say follow the fundamental trading, technical analysis, stocks trading. Then when you're comfortable with stocks trading, you can start looking into options trading. And for options trading, on my Twitter page, I also post there's a free website you can learn how to options trade. It's called optionalpha.com. That's optionalpha.com.
Interesting.
Don't buy courses. Don't buy any of these courses online. They're $130. I've seen a bunch. I saw one that was like $250 for options trade the other day. Optionalpha.com is way better than any course. I can say that. You can put my name behind that. It's way better than any course out there online, and it's free. It's 100% free. There are 12 courses on there that's free, from portfolio management to options trading basics to bullish strategies to different things, and it's 100% free, guys. So I know people love free things.
We
So
do love free. We do love
yeah,
free.
yeah. So now with real estate, that's a really tricky one because I understand that people the barrier to entry is much higher there. I'll say focus on paying off your debt if you have student loan debt. Like, life. I say to my friends all the time, life is not a race. It's
Mhm.
a marathon, really. So, I'll say I was privileged and lucky enough not to have any debt, but I tell my friends, if you do have debt, focus on paying off your debt, or paying it off at least to a substantial amount where it's manageable. Like, you don't want to be. It's not going to look good from just from the interest rate to getting approved to a bunch of things when you have a surmountable amount of debt. So focus on paying off your debt or bringing it down to manageable debt. If you have any credit card debt, get rid of that. And regards to raising capital, you'll be surprised how many, it starts with just going to real estate seminars in your area, or home buyer seminars, or first time home
Mhm.
buyer seminars, and almost every city has one. Almost every major city has one. If you're not aware of it, it's because you're not plugged in. Almost every major city has a first time home buyer seminar. And you'll be surprised the amount of assistance. Like, I know Atlanta recently launched an assistance program if you earn less than $60,000
Yeah.
a year for first time home buyers. I can't remember the details because, I mean, I just came across it. One of my patrons shared it with me, but I don't know the details because it doesn't apply to me. But I know that it's a great program because he mentioned one of his friends who was able to get like most of her down payment covered via that
Wow.
program, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. If
That
you're a
is.
veteran, your VA loan 0% down,
Mhm.
amazing. So just information is wealth. Like, you don't get too hung up. Like, okay, don't stop that. Oh, I don't have the capital. Okay, don't stop there. You got
Yeah.
to be aggressive. Like, because I mean, listen, a lot of people think, oh, this, I'm just gonna say this. And people think, oh, white folks are just out here again. Yeah, I understand there's a history of redlining. I understand that there's historically been a systematic way that they have eliminated black people from accessing capital and accessing
Mhm.
these loans. But I know a couple of white people, they're just taking advantage of these programs that are just giving them access to these loans and capitals, and it's out there for us too, and we just need to get plugged in. And I know, like, the first place to start is just going to these first time home buyer seminars. You'll be surprised the wealth of information there.
And just as a side plug, if you look at any lender and any of their
Mm-hmm.
websites, you usually will be able to see some of their first time homebuyer program partners
Right.
where you can
Right.
go to their seminars. Just because of COVID-19, many of them have shifted virtual, so you don't even
Mm-hmm.
have to go anywhere. You can
Mm-hmm.
also just Google first time homebuyer classes
Mm-hmm.
in your area, and there should be a ton that'll pop up. So please take advantage because, again, sometimes there is free money associated where you don't have to spend as much upfront, and you can
Exactly.
focus on things like building your home, making any adjustments that you want. There's also 203K loans where if there is a property that you really love, but maybe it needs some work, you want to put an addition on the home, you want to get it up
Mm-hmm.
to code, there are also funds for that as well.
Exactly. And I will say this: don't sleep on new construction. All my
Yes.
properties so far have been new construction. I'm looking to get a new one, which is new construction. And the thing I love about new construction is you will get almost always better rates. It's more favorable for lending because it's new.
Yeah.
You almost get better rates in terms of home insurance, and you almost always get your closing costs covered by if you use the preferred lender of the builder. So don't sleep on new construction. I know a lot of people are like, oh dang, I got to worry about closing costs. I got to worry about down payment. But like with closing costs, I've in all my experience with new construction buildings and using the preferred lenders of the builders, I've always had my closing costs covered.
You
Yeah.
know what? You shared so many gems today. I didn't even know about the free options courses, so I'm definitely going to take advantage of that. One
Mm-hmm.
thing that I know that I've talked to a lot of people who have listened to this podcast, so thank you to everyone who has. One thing I know that's hard is sometimes the art of starting, the art
Mm-hmm.
of getting started, especially in faith. Sometimes we doubt ourselves and it's like, okay, well, is this something God wants me to have? Should I be
Mm-hmm.
aggressively chasing, the things that I want or the things that can bring me monetary gain?
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have around balancing, putting God first and balancing still pursuing the things that God has called you to do?
I'll say realizing, so what drives you? That'll be my first start. I'll say if it's funny because people see me, I'm very like, I'm all about personal finances and just being better at finances. But I people always shocked when I say money does not drive me at all. In fact, money has never driven me. Now
Mm-hmm.
granted, I could be speaking from just the background that I grew up in. I'm thankful where my dad like never allowed us to lack anything. So that might have played a role. But money has never driven me, but rather I'll say I've always looked at money as an instrument, a means to an
Mm-hmm.
end. Like, what is my goal? Like, okay, granted, I want first, in terms of me personally, I see that I treat it this way. I'm pursuing God, I'm pursuing His glory, and pursuing His kingdom. I guess pursuing His glory is a wrong term. All glory ascribed to God, but pursuing His kingdom. And I see that whatever I'm blessed with is God entrusting me with this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that I am pursuing this, is God is entrusting me with this to do more. And that's why I'm very passionate about giving, tithing,
Come on.
sacrificing, giving, and I'm passionate about just in pouring into others, whether it's like even my Patreon. A lot of my friends have, it's funny, one of my friends reached out to me recently. It was like, dude, why are you charged? Because my Patreon is, I don't charge, I don't have a minimum charge. So like literally I have people signed up on my Patreon paying $1, and I have people signed up on my Patreon paying up to $200. I'm like, you pay whatever you want to pay, because the reason why I do that is because I want this to be beneficial to whoever, wherever, in whatever stage you are in your financial journey. And that's my way of pouring back. And the only people ask, so why don't you just do this on a free platform? The only reason why I joined Patreon, and I had a long talk about myself with this, is because because of just how much I have going on and just the way my mind is wired. I have realized for me to give my 100% to it, I need to be in an organized platform where I know, okay, people are actually giving me or donating to view my content. So that way I feel an obligation, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
to give my best and give my 100% when I'm bringing out these content. And so the feedback I've received is amazing. And it's funny because it's like, people are always like, no, dude, you need to charge more. You need to charge higher. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that right now, because right now I feel like God is just leading me to like, okay, He's put me in this position where I have access to these information. And I realize a lot of people, for whatever reason, do not. So my goal is to make access to this information available, really, to whoever is interested in it. And I don't force anybody to sign up. I don't force anybody to be interested in it. I'm just like, hey, listen, if this is something you feel is beneficial to you, go for it.
True.
But overall, I'll say if you're ever struggling with that balance of, first thing, there is nothing wrong as a Christian for you pursuing financial freedom and financial security, provided you realize that the security and your source is coming from God. I don't like that idea of, oh, we should not be trying to pursue this. It's like, no, what is your goal? If your goal is you're driven by the money, you love the money, then yeah, okay, maybe you need to take a step back and realize, okay, this is probably something you need to reevaluate. But provided you understand that God is the source and He entrusts you with this, and you realize it's just a means to an end, I think you be straight.
I'm so honored that you came on. I think you provided a lot of context, and I love what you said. What is your goal? Because I
Hmm.
think I talked about this in my last podcast, but the phrase "I want for nothing" is still coming to mind. Like, I understand that God is my source, and like you said, He's
Exactly.
entrusting me with this. This is something He's entrusting me with for the greater
Exactly.
good. And
Exactly.
so I'm just so thankful that you came on. You've dropped a lot of gems. So I would be remiss if I did not allow you time to just share. How can people find you? What are some things that you have, upcoming that people can participate in?
Yep, yep. I'm very approachable. I'm very, if you follow my personal Twitter, you realize I'm very grounded spiritually, but I joke a lot. So it's you probably be upset by some of the things I say, and probably you find some of the things I say humorous. But you can follow me on Twitter. Easy, letter E, letter Z, finances, letter four, letter number four, letter U. That'll be my finance page. If you want to, if you follow my finance page, you'll easily find my personal page. If you want to follow my personal page at your own risk, um,
Your
you
own
can, you
risk.
can at your own risk. Yeah, definitely. I'll be wilding out there sometimes. You can follow me on LinkedIn as well at David Umo, UMO. You can email me at David UMO, the number three at gmail.com. And you can just reach out to me if you. I believe I'm also a part of the think tank community.
Whoop,
Charisse, I'm
whoop.
sure, probably has spoken about that. So I'm actually going to be speaking It's probably going to be too late by the time this episode is released. But I'm going to be speaking tomorrow about short-term rentals and long-term rentals, so that will be fun.
Huge.
Um, yeah. So if yeah, just just reach out, and if you say, oh hey, provided you add you sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, I'm really busy, I'm not responsive, and if it's a person I don't know that's DMing me, I'm not so quick to respond. But if you include, hey, I heard about you from Reese's podcast, I would definitely respond to you. So just make sure to include that. And if you have any specific questions, please by all means go for it.
Thank you, David. And as I mentioned, I'm going to make sure all of this information is included in the description. So just in case you forget, you always have that available. Again,
Hmm.
David, I thank you. I'm just praying for you. I'm praying that God continues to pour into you as you're pouring into others, and that God
Amen.
continues to bless your brand. So thank you so much for being here. For
Thank
the
you. Thank you for
listeners,
having me.
oh, absolutely. You've been nothing but a joy. And it's an
I
honor. It
appreciate
was
it.
it was cool. I was actually on David's Patreon a couple weeks ago. So
She
just the
was.
the
Yep.
friendship that we formed just through this has been incredible. So again, just like you said, network, get out there, meet people, because you never know who's going to be beneficial and a blessing to you as well. So with that being said, thank you all for listening. I can't wait to see you again next week. Have a great one.
You too. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Reese. That was fun.
No, thank you. This was incredible. I truly appreciate you. Best.